My family celebrated when I lost everything. Decades later, my brother, ex-spouse, and aunt are furious I bought their childhood home and turned it into a rehab center. Help us keep the stories alive. Subscribe today. And please, share your location in the comments. It makes our audience feel like one big family. The champagne cork popped at exactly 3:47 p.m. I remember because I was standing in the hallway of my childhood home, the Victorian on Maple Street where 3 generations of Johnsons had lived, watching through the French doors as my family toasted my destruction. To new beginnings, my brother Kevin raised his glass, his arm wrapped around my ex-husband, Deshawn. They clinked glasses with Aunt Lorraine, whose laughter cut through me like broken glass. 24 hours earlier, I'd lost everything. My bakery, Sweet Revelations, had been foreclosed after someone anonymously reported false health violations. My marriage had imploded when Deshawn served me papers, claiming I was married to my business. My savings account, drained by legal fees fighting charges that mysteriously appeared from nowhere. I'd come to my family home seeking shelter, comfort, the unconditional love parents promise. Instead, I found a celebration. Janelle always thought she was better than us, Aunt Lorraine's voice carried. Her fancy bakery, her college degree. Reality finally caught up with Little Miss Perfect. My mother, Patricia, stood silent by the window, her eyes meeting mine for a brief moment before she looked away. That look told me everything. She'd known I was there. They all had. Deshawn's voice was smooth, practiced. The house sale closes next month. Finally, we can convert this place into luxury condos. We'll make millions. My house. The one my grandmother Essie left me in her will 6 months ago. The will they'd contested, claiming I'd manipulated a dying woman. Kevin laughed. She'll probably come crawling back, begging for help. Always was weak. Something inside me calcified into diamond-hard resolve. I turned silently, walked out, and disappeared into the cold November rain. They had no idea what they'd created. The Atlanta skyline looked different from my studio apartment in East Point. Smaller. Attainable. I'd been living here 3 weeks, surviving on ramen and Spite, working double shifts at Waffle House while the rage inside me transformed into something more useful. Strategy. My reflection showed a 34-year-old woman who looked 50. Dark circles, weight loss, hair pulled back in a perpetual bun. But my eyes, they burned with something new. You look like hell, Nellie. Mona, my cousin from my father's side, set down 2 coffees. She was the only family member who'd reached out, bringing supplies and sanity. Tell me you're eating something besides anger. Anger's calorie-free. I managed a smile. And it's fuel. She pulled out a manila folder, her lawyer face firmly in place. I did the research you asked for. Grandmother Essie's will is ironclad. They can contest until kingdom come, but the house is legally yours. Problem is the property taxes. The maintenance. The money I don't have. I finished my coffee, bitter and black. They're banking on me defaulting so they can swoop in and buy it cheap. Your aunt has cash. Kevin married money, that tech exec, Simone. And Deshawn. Mona's jaw tightened. He got your bakery equipment in the divorce. Sold it. Has about 80 grand sitting pretty. The number hit me like a fist. My grandmother's mixers, her recipes written in the margins of her notebooks, the oven where she'd taught me to make her famous sweet potato pies, all gone. Liquidated. Erased. They're planning to demolish it, I whispered. Grandmother's house. All those memories. Mona leaned forward. Then we don't let them. But Nellie, you need money. Real money. What's your plan? I pulled out my own folder, pages filled with notes, calculations, dreams that had crystallized during endless night shifts. Revenge, I said simply. Served with purpose. 6 months crawled by like wounded animals. I worked 3 jobs, Waffle House mornings, cleaning offices at night, weekend catering gigs. My body ached constantly. My hands developed calluses on calluses. But my bank account grew, dollar by painful dollar. Mona helped me file for bankruptcy protection on grandmother Essie's house, buying time. Kevin sent threatening letters. Deshaun called twice, his voice dripping with fake concern. Baby, just sign over the deed. We can help you get back on your feet. I hung up both times without speaking. April brought cherry blossoms and Terrence Matthews into my life. We met at a community center where I was catering a fundraiser. My side hustle was gaining traction. He was tall, with silver threading through his temples, running a nonprofit called Second Chances Alliance. These crab cakes are incredible, he said, taking 3. You do this professionally. I used to own a bakery. Lost it. The truth came easier now, stripped of shame. His eyes sharpened with interest. I know who you are. Sweet revelations. Your strawberry shortcake was legendary. What happened? I told him everything. Not the sanitized version, but the raw truth, the anonymous complaints, the family celebration, the systematic destruction of everything I'd built. He listened without interrupting, his expression darkening. I run rehabilitation centers, he said finally. We help people rebuild after addiction, incarceration, trauma. Our Atlanta facility is overcrowded. We need space. He paused, studying me. That Victorian you own, the one your family wants, it's perfect for what we do. Big rooms, good bones, accessible location. My heart stopped. Are you offering to buy it? I'm offering partnership. You maintain ownership. We lease it, renovate it, turn it into something that matters. We'd pay enough to cover your taxes, repairs, and give you steady income. Your family wouldn't profit a single dime. It was poetry. It was justice. When can we start? Terrence wasn't just talk. Within 2 weeks, he had blueprints spread across my tiny kitchen table, his nonprofit's architect, a Puerto Rican woman named Carmen Rodriguez, pointing out possibilities I'd never imagined. The 3rd floor becomes individual recovery rooms, Carmen traced the plans. The kitchen, industrial grade, where residents learn culinary skills. Job training, Janelle. Your grandmother's kitchen becomes a classroom. My throat tightened. Grandmother Essie had always said cooking was love made visible. Now her space would teach others to love themselves enough to heal. The front parlor converts to counseling rooms. The basement, currently a disaster, becomes a gym and meditation space. Terrence was animated, alive with purpose. We can house 20 residents, full rehabilitation services. 12-month program minimum. The neighborhood's mixed, I warned. Some areas are gentrifying. Others. I trailed off, remembering the news reports, the crime statistics. That's exactly why we need to be there, Terrence said firmly. Recovery centers in wealthy suburbs don't serve the people who need them most. Your grandmother's house sits right in the community that needs second chances. Mona reviewed the contracts with suspicious eyes, but they were clean. Second Chances Alliance would invest $400,000 in renovations. I'd maintain ownership, receive $3,000 monthly lease payments, and have final approval on all decisions. After 5 years, I could buy them out or continue the partnership. This is legitimate, Mona admitted grudgingly. But Nellie, your family will lose their minds. I thought of Kevin's toast, Deshaun's betrayal, Aunt Lorraine's vicious laughter. My mother's silent complicity. Good, I said, signing my name with a flourish. Let them. The renovations began in May. I watched crews arrive, pulling out rotted wood, exposing beautiful bones beneath decades of neglect. The house was coming back to life. And so was I. The call started in June. First, a number I didn't recognize, my mother. "Janelle, baby, we need to talk about the house. There are construction crews there." "What's happening?" Her voice carried an edge of panic poorly disguised as concern. "Renovations," I said coolly. "The property needs work." "With what money?" "Janelle, be reasonable. You can't afford." "I have investors. Partners. It's handled, Patricia." Using her first name felt like dropping a bomb. She'd always insisted on "Mama," even when she'd stood silent during my destruction. Silence. "Then, your brother wants to make an offer. A fair one. 60,000. I laughed, genuinely amused. "The property's worth 300,000. Try again." She hung up. Kevin showed up the next day, his Tesla blocking the construction trucks. He'd gained weight, wore expensive suits that couldn't hide his essential weakness. Behind him stood Simone, his wife, model tall, ice-cold, dripping old money. "You can't do this," he said, gesturing at the workers. "This is our family home." "My family home," I corrected. "Grandmother left it to me. Remember? You contested the will, called me a manipulator, threw a party when my life fell apart." His face flushed. "We were upset. Emotional. You can't hold that against us forever. Watch me." I turned back to Carmen, who was directing painters. "The trim needs to be heritage blue. Grandmother loved that shade." Simone stepped forward, her voice like silk over steel. "Kevin, let me handle this." She focused on me. "Ms. Johnson, let's be adults. Everyone said things they regret. You've made your point. Name your price." "It's not for sale." "Everything's for sale." She smiled, predatory. 75,000. Final offer. 75,000. I repeated slowly. "For property worth 4 times that. You're insulting me and proving you never valued this house, just what you could steal from it." Kevin grabbed my arm. "You're being vindictive, Anne." I yanked free. "Touch me again, and I'll have you arrested. Get off my property. Both of you." As they left, Kevin shouted, "This isn't over." But it was. For them, it was completely over. Deshawn arrived on a Tuesday, bringing flowers, sunflowers, which he knew were my favorite. The gesture felt like mockery. "Nellie. You look good." His smile was the one I'd fallen for a decade ago, dimples and charm. "Real good. Healthy. What do you want, Deshawn?" I didn't invite him past the porch. Workers moved behind me, installing new windows, the sound of progress echoing. He glanced at the activity. "I heard about your project. A rehab center. That's amazing, baby. Really? Shows your big heart." He stepped closer. "Look, I've been thinking. About us. I made a mistake. You made several." I crossed my arms. "You divorced me when I was vulnerable. Took my business equipment. Sold it. Profited from my pain. I was angry. You never had time for me, always in that bakery. Building something. Creating. While you were sleeping with my brother's personal trainer, according to the divorce papers." His face twitched. "That was exaggerated. The lawyers, they make things sound. What do you really want?" He pulled out papers, the charm evaporating. "I'm entitled to half this property. We were married when your grandmother died. Community property laws. We were separated. The will explicitly names me. Alone. I smiled, cold and sharp. Mona's a better lawyer than whoever you consulted. Try again. His voice dropped, dangerous. You're making enemies, Janelle. Kevin, Lorraine, Simone, these people have resources. They'll bury you. They tried that already. I survived. I opened the door to go inside. Anything else? Yeah. His eyes glittered with malice. Your mother's sick. Did you know? Heart problems. Stress isn't helping. This war you're waging, it's killing her. The word struck home, meant to wound. I steadied myself against the doorframe. If she's sick, maybe she should stop letting her son and sister plot against her daughter. Maybe she should have defended me when it mattered. My voice cracked slightly. Now get off my property before I call the police. He left, but his words burrowed deep. I found my mother at Grady Hospital 3 days later. Mona had confirmed it, Patricia Johnson, admitted for chest pains, currently stable. Room 412. She looked smaller in the hospital bed, her hair thinner than I remembered. Seeing her vulnerable cracked something in my chest, old love warring with new bitterness. Janelle. Her voice was paper-thin. You came. Mona told me. I stayed by the door, maintaining distance. Are you okay? The doctors say it's stress. Anxiety. She plucked at the blanket. Baby, please. This family is tearing itself apart. This family tore apart when you stood silent while they celebrated my destruction. The words emerged steady, factual. You watched them toast my failure. You knew I was there. You looked right at me and turned away. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I was scared. Lorraine, she's always been so strong, so certain. And Kevin is my son. I'm your daughter. I know. She sobbed. I know, and I've been a coward. But Janelle, I was trapped. Your daddy left us nothing when he died. Lorraine helped me keep the house, paid bills when I couldn't. I owed her. So you paid with me. I felt hollow. My dignity, my reputation, my safety, those were the currency you used to settle your debts to Aunt Lorraine. She convinced me you'd manipulated Mama Essie. Said you'd isolated her at the end, poisoned her mind against the family. Patricia's hands trembled. I wanted to believe you hadn't. But Lorraine was so convincing, and I was so tired of fighting. Grandmother loved me because I spent time with her. I listened to her stories, learned her recipes, sat with her during dialysis. Where were you? Where was Kevin? Where was Lorraine when she needed family? Patricia had no answer. I'm not stopping, I said finally. The rehab center opens in 3 months. It's called Essie's House. Your mother's legacy, helping people heal. They'll never forgive you. I don't need their forgiveness. Lorraine showed up with lawyers in August. 3 of them, expensive suits and briefcases, marching up to the construction site like an invading army. Janelle Christina Johnson. Lorraine's voice could cut glass. She was 62, rail-thin, dressed in St. John's suits that screamed old money, money that came from her late husband's pharmaceutical fortune. This ends today. I climbed down from the ladder where I'd been helping Carmen hang the sign, Essie's House Recovery Center, opening September 15th. Aunt Lorraine. Gentlemen. I wiped paint from my hands. This is private property. You're trespassing. The lead lawyer, a white man with silver hair, stepped forward. Miss Johnson, I'm Richard Westbrook. I represent Mrs. Lorraine Mitchell Jennings and Kevin Johnson. We're filing an injunction to halt construction. This property's ownership is disputed. No, it's not. Mona emerged from inside, her own briefcase in hand, flanked by Terrence. The will has been validated by 2 separate courts. Your client's contestation was dismissed with prejudice 6 months ago. This is harassment. Westbrook's smile never wavered. We've discovered new evidence suggesting undue influence. Janelle isolated her grandmother, controlled her medication, manipulated a vulnerable elderly woman. That's a lie. I shouted, rage finally breaking through. I loved her. I was there when nobody else gave a damn. She was alone, scared, dying, and I held her hand every single day. So you admit you were alone with her frequently? Westbrook pounced. Opportunity and motive, Ms. Johnson. You stood to inherit valuable property. Your failing business needed capital. You had every reason to manipulate. Get out. Terrence's voice carried absolute authority. I'm former District Attorney Terrence Matthews. I know a baseless harassment case when I see one. File your injunction. It'll be dismissed, and I'll personally file a countersuit for legal harassment and emotional distress. Lorraine's composure finally cracked. You ungrateful bitch. Essie was my sister. My blood. You turned her against me. She saw through you, I said quietly. All those years you criticized her cooking, mocked her church, called her simple-minded because she didn't finish college. She remembered every slight. She told me everything. Liar. What I hadn't told them, Grandmother Essie had left me more than the house. She'd left me a box of letters, hidden in her nightstand, discovered only after her death. That night, I spread them across my apartment floor. 43 letters, spanning 20 years, never sent. Grandmother's confession, her pain, her reasons. Dear Janelle, one began, dated 3 years ago. Today Lorraine called me stupid again. Said my recipes were peasant food, not worth preserving. She don't understand that food is memory. Every dish holds a story, baby girl. When I'm gone, I want you to have the house. Not because you're better than Kevin, but because you'll protect what matters. You'll remember the stories. The others, they just see dollar signs. Another, from 5 years back, Patricia came by asking for money again. 3rd time this month. I gave it, like always, but I see how she looks at the house. Like it's already hers to sell. Her and Lorraine already planning, already counting. Makes my heart hurt. The last one, written a week before her death, shook in my hands. Janelle, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Don't let them make you feel guilty. I chose you because you're the only one who loved me without measuring what you'd get. You sat with me during chemo. You learned my recipes not to profit, but to preserve. You cried with me about your granddaddy, shared my grief. That's love, baby. Pure and simple. They'll fight you. Stay strong. Make the house mean something. Love, Grandma Essie. I took photos of every letter, backed them up 3 ways, and sent copies to Mona. This is your nuclear option, she said over the phone. If they push that undue influence case, these letters destroy their narrative. They prove Essie was clear-minded, thoughtful, and had damn good reasons for her decision. I don't want to use them, I admitted. They're private. Her pain, her disappointments, I don't want to make them public. Then let's hope they drop it. They didn't. September 14th, 1 day before Essie's house was scheduled to open. I was doing final walkthroughs with Terrence when Carmen called, her voice tight with panic. Janelle, we have a problem. The health inspector just failed us. What? We passed inspection last week. Different inspector. Same department. He's saying the kitchen doesn't meet commercial standards, the bathrooms need reconfiguration, the exits aren't properly marked. She paused. Janelle, this is the same stuff you dealt with at your bakery. Same vague complaints, same inspector, James Crawford. The name hit like ice water. Crawford had been the inspector who'd destroyed sweet revelations, who'd found violations that mysteriously appeared and disappeared. It's them, I breathed. Kevin, Lorraine, they bribed him. Again. Terence's face went stone cold. Get me everything. Every form, every citation, every photograph. Carmen, document everything. Janelle, call Mona. We're not letting them do this again. 6 hours later, we sat in Mona's office with a revelation. Inspector Crawford had received payments from a shell company, Maple Street Development LLC. 30 minutes of digging revealed the owners, Kevin Johnson and Lorraine Mitchell Jennings. They set up a company to buy your property when you defaulted, Mona explained. They've been planning this for over a year. The bakery violations, the pressure on the rehab center, all designed to force you to sell. That's fraud, Terence said. Criminal fraud. I felt sick. My own family, systematically destroying my life, twice, for profit. We call the district attorney, Mona continued. We expose this. They'll face charges. No. I stood, pacing. Not yet. The opening is tomorrow. We have 20 residents expecting beds, hope, a chance at recovery. We can't delay because of their sabotage. What's your play? Terence asked. I smiled, dangerous and determined. We open anyway. We invite the press, the community, every politician in Atlanta. We make it so public that shutting us down becomes political suicide. And we make sure Kevin and Lorraine have front row seats to watch their plan collapse. Opening day dawned clear and bright, perfect September weather. By 9 a.m., the block was packed, news cameras, community leaders, 3 city council members, and the mayor himself, who'd been vocal about needing more recovery resources. Essie's house looked magnificent. Carmen had restored the Victorians' original beauty while modernizing everything inside. The wraparound porch held rocking chairs. The sign, hand-painted, showed Grandmother Essie's face, smiling, eternal. I spotted them immediately, Kevin and Lorraine, standing across the street, faces twisted with fury. Simone was there too, filming on her phone, probably documenting for lawyers. Deshawn lurked behind them, always the coward. My mother stood apart, wearing her church dress, looking lost. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, addressing the crowd from the porch, my voice amplified by microphones. Thank you for coming. Essie's house opens today because of one woman's vision, my grandmother, Essie Mae Johnson, who believed everyone deserves a second chance. I told her story. The poor girl from rural Georgia who'd moved to Atlanta with nothing, built a life, raised children, buried a husband, and survived decades of being underestimated. I talked about her kindness, her cooking, her wisdom. She left me this house, I continued, because she wanted it to mean something. To help people the way she'd helped everyone in her life, with open arms and unconditional love. I paused, looking directly at Kevin and Lorraine. Some people tried to stop this. They filed lawsuits. They contested her will. They bribed inspectors to sabotage us. Gasps rippled through the crowd. But they failed. Essie's house stands today because love is stronger than greed. Terence took over, explaining the program, 12-month residential treatment, job training, counseling, family reconciliation services. 20 residents, carefully selected, already moving in. Success stories waiting to happen. Then Councilwoman Teresa Barnes spoke. I've reviewed the inspection reports. I've also reviewed the financial connections between certain parties and the inspector who filed them. I'm calling for a full investigation. Kevin pushed through the crowd. That's slander. You can't prove. Maple Street Development LLC. Mona appeared beside me, holding documents. Registered to you and your aunt. Payments to Inspector Crawford, documented. Bank records, subpoenaed this morning. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Inspector Crawford was suspended pending investigation. The district attorney opened a fraud case. Kevin and Lorraine's lawyers went into overdrive, but the evidence was damning. Essie's house opened successfully, all 20 beds filled within a week. The first resident, a 37-year-old woman named Tasha who'd been homeless for 6 years, cried when she saw her room. "This is mine. Really mine for a whole year." "Yours," I confirmed. "We're going to help you rebuild." "Why?" She studied me with eyes that had seen too much. "Why do you care?" "Because someone cared about me once. I'm passing it forward." That night, I found my mother on the porch, rocking slowly in one of grandmother's old chairs. "I'm leaving Kevin and Lorraine," she said without preamble. "Moving to South Carolina, near your cousin Brenda. Getting away from this mess." "That's probably wise." I sat beside her, maintaining distance. "I don't expect forgiveness." Her voice cracked. "I chose wrong." Repeatedly. "I let them convince me you were the problem when you were the only one who wasn't." "You taught me to be strong," I said finally. "Just not the way you intended. You showed me what happens when you let fear make your decisions, when you prioritize keeping peace over doing what's right." "I'm sorry." She wiped tears. "For all of it. Your grandmother would be ashamed of me." "Probably," I agreed. "But she'd also say it's never too late to change. You have to actually change, though. Not just apologize." She nodded, standing slowly. "The house is beautiful. She'd love what you've done." "I know." I watched her leave, feeling hollow. Forgiveness would take time, if it came at all. Some betrayals cut too deep for easy healing. Inside, residents gathered for our first community dinner. I'd cooked grandmother's recipes: collard greens, cornbread, fried chicken, sweet potato pie. The kitchen filled with laughter, conversation, hope. "Ms. Janelle," Tasha called. "This food is incredible. You should open a restaurant." I smiled, thinking of sweet revelations, of everything I'd lost and found again. Maybe someday. Right now, this is exactly where I need to be. 6 months later, Essie's house was thriving. 12 of our original 20 residents had completed the program, 8 remained on track. We'd hired 3 graduates as staff, including Tasha, who'd discovered a gift for counseling. Kevin and Lorraine faced criminal charges. Their trial was scheduled for spring. Deshaun had disappeared, last heard working in Charlotte, his Atlanta reputation destroyed. Simone filed for divorce, taking Kevin for everything. Karma had a sense of irony. My mother and I spoke monthly, cautiously rebuilding. She was in therapy, confronting decades of avoidance and fear. Progress was slow, but genuine. I'd opened a small cafe next door, Morning Revelations, serving grandmother's recipes to the community. Profits funded scholarships for residents transitioning out of the program. Sweet Revelations 2.0, built on stronger foundations. Mona helped me establish the Essie Mae Johnson Foundation, providing resources for people rebuilding after life knocked them down. We'd helped 37 people in 6 months: job placement, housing deposits, legal assistance, therapy referrals. Standing on the porch one March morning, I watched residents leave for work programs, their faces holding something that hadn't been there before: possibility. Carmen joined me, holding blueprints. "The building next door's available. We could expand, add 40 more beds, double our capacity. Let's do it." I felt grandmother's presence, warm and approving. Terrence appeared, holding coffee. "You know what you've built here? More than a rehab center. It's proof that hurt people can heal people. That you can take the worst thing that happened to you and transform it into the best thing you've done." I had good teachers. I thought of grandmother Essie, who'd loved without conditions. Of my own pain, which had taught me empathy. And good partners. The Today Show wants an interview, he mentioned casually. They're doing a piece on innovative recovery programs. I laughed. National TV. Grandmother would have loved that. My Janelle, on television, showing those folks how it's done. A car pulled up, a family visiting their daughter, one of our residents. They'd driven from Birmingham, hope and fear mixing on their faces. I went to greet them, to share our story, to offer what grandmother had always given, a place to belong. Essie's house wasn't just a building. It was proof that love outlasts spite, that purpose defeats pettiness, that the best revenge is becoming someone who no longer needs it. The house stood strong, painted heritage blue, filled with second chances. And so did I.